好的，现在呢，我们的直播马上就要正式开始了。不知道大家有没有去过成都？在成都啊，有这么一句话，叫做“九天开出一成都”。在这片土地之下，埋藏着多少若干年前。
Years ago, a team of archaeologists discovered something astonishing to this world. And in around 100 years, those questions remain unanswered. So, what is the site of that discovery? That is Sanxingdui. Once an elderly described it as remained dormant for 3,000 years. Today, in our show, we are going to take you to discover the mysteries of Sanxingdui. Hello everyone. I am Gao Dalun. I'm the archaeology team leader. You might be unfamiliar with the name of archaeology team. And usually as the captain of this team, we must have such a title must be entrusted by the national government. That's why this title is an honor to me. And we have very limited number of captains of archaeologists. There are about several thousand in the nation, so it's like a rare resource. Today, together with every one of you, we will return to the history through the archaeological discovery. We will try to explore the nature and the source of civilizations. We have to go into the details to get to the root. Hello everyone, my name is Zhang Peng. I am a protector of relics. Welcome to join our big family of archaeology, and welcome to join our camp. I am Zhang Yicheng. I am a technician supporting archaeology. Those relics display the delicate history to us. Hello everyone. I am a drawer of the archaeology. I am Zhang Yu. I use the drawing papers to record history and renew it with my technique. I am Han Yuanyuan. I'm a photographer. For every shot I took, I witnessed the existence of the national relics, and every frame of the pictures take notes with the aesthetics of history. Hello everyone, I am an interpreter in the museum. My name is Xu Lexiao. With my words, I try to deliver knowledge to every visitor. Dear friends, today we will take you to the journey of Sanxingdui discovery. Welcome to our site. In these several days, you must have seen a team from CCTV to take you to understand the cultural miracles of different relics. Right, Mr. Gao? Actually, just not everyone has done the self-introduction. So, are they really doing what they are doing? They stated, like the captain of archaeologists and Mr. Peng, protector of relics. Are those titles real? And this handsome guy says he's the interpreter and a commentator in the museum. And Yunwing says he is a professional photographer serving the archaeologists. Is that so? Judging by the look of her. And also you look like a pilot. You said you were a technician? If the technicians all wore such costumes, is that correct, Mr. Gao? That works. And what about you? You say you are a drawer of archaeology. You look like one. Maybe today's show can be renamed as I guess who you are. So let's guess whether they are really what they stated they were doing. Mr. Gao, what's your idea? You know Peng a lot, so what about the others? This guy looks 80% like an interpreter and commentator. Why not 100%? What's the difference? We don't just look at the appearance of one to make a judgment. So I leave 20% room of maneuver. What about that girl, the so-called professional photographer? She seems professional. The cap of the camera is not even taken off. Maybe she's just a young comer. In the 70s and 80s, we had limited budget, so we couldn't get a lot of films. So sometimes we accidentally clicked the button and we took a wrong photo, not as has been needed by us. So maybe she is like one of those. What about this guy, the so-called technician? If you're not, you at least must have watched a lot of documentaries of us. You wear exactly like those professional technicians, 100% alike. In addition, for a technician, they need culture, background, and professionalism, and you look quite good. What about drawing pictures for archaeologists? She is also very alike, but you might need to pay more attention to your wearings. You must wear more official clothes. For example, sometimes you need to wear additional sleeves. And a lot of our posts may need to wear glasses. Of course, unless you have protected your eyes very carefully, then you don't need to. Mr. Gao basically can pick the difference of all of those titles. So today our show is called Go Archaeologists. We hope we could train your capabilities in archaeology and let us learn more about archaeology. Now, please, our guests, take your seats. Mr. Gao, be my guest. Just to re-emphasize again, we were just now standing in a simulated site of archaeology. It's not real. Otherwise, we would be chased away by Mr. Gao, stamping on that piece of land. Do you know why? It's improper to stand in those pits if they're real. What about the archaeologists? How can they carry out their work if not standing on that piece of land? Mr. Gao just picked about the lack of professionalism of every one of us. Today we have a lot of guests. Some have skills, some have good looks. Now, how about telling us what you know about Sanxingdui one by one? I've just heard about the name of it, Sanxingdui. Only the 3 Chinese characters. Starting from its discovery, it's about 100 years. Starting from 1926, we discovered some relics from Sanxingdui. And starting from 1986, we had another big round of excavation from the site. Today, one seat is empty. Whose seat is it? That's the princess of Sanxingdui. Let's welcome her. I am Wen Xinxin. I'm also the CCTV worker. I'm gonna join all of you for this Sanxingdui session. It's like we are sitting in the tea house. How about let's taste the tea and experience the tea culture. Now let's invite our professional tea worker. Is he really a Sichuan local? Yes, he is. Water comes out indeed from the pot. Mind the splashes. Have you once tasted the local tea in Sichuan called Gongfu tea? I am a local. I've never heard about Gongfu tea before. This is special local tea here. We have two types, black tea and green tea, but not Gongfu tea. I know that picking your ears is one special entertainment in Sichuan, yes, and also the hot pot is a must-go. And also now we know another one to experience the lives in Sichuan, that's the Sanxingdui. Now let's enjoy our tea. Just forget about it, it's not tea at all, it's just pure water. And it's cold water. Just now we've shown you how the tea culture goes. For your additional information, the bonus for today is not just to experience the tea culture, but also remember, come to enjoy the CCTV show about the Sanxingdui discovery. We have a lot of gifts. If you interact with us in the showroom, we will send you the gifts. And we have a lot of guests to formulate our archaeology team. They will interact with you together. Starting from today, our showroom of Sanxingdui will continue for 1 week to bring you the updates in the front line. In the near future, what we can bring to you and what are awaiting us, please stay tuned. And whenever you see my face, the gifts will come around. I'm very familiar with her. When we did live show, we've cooperated before. In the first session, we had a team. It's called Shi Qizhong, and I changed the name to Yao Qizhong in Chinese. And today, she played another role, the princess of Sanxingdui. Have you ever found the remains of the ancient people in Sanxingdui? I'm not sure. It's a very interesting topic about Sanxingdui. But before we get into it, let's come to know the mysteries about Sanxingdui.
Now we have arrived at the Sanxingdui relic site. So speaking of Sanxingdui, you will hear about the bronze statues and also the bronze wares. Maybe you are curious why Sanxingdui is named as Sanxingdui. Just take a look at this map. Before 1986, in the Guanghan city of Ma'mu, and there were 3 piles. If you look at these piles, it's actually located in a line, just look like a star. And the local people are calling this area as the 3-star piles, in Chinese called Sanxingdui. So one tips, so actually you are referring to the local region to name the cultural relics, the historic sites. That's why we call this place Sanxingdui sites. So you may be aware of the holy tree and also the bronze statue. All of these relics has been buried underground. Sanxingdui ruins. This is the Sanxingdui pile, one of the pile of the Sanxingdui. So right now you can only see one pile, one earth mound. So going back to 1986, so at that time there were a lot of workers, they're actually digging out the earth mounds. But accidentally, when they're working on site, they excavate the bronzeware that shocks the world. And also at that time, we only leave one pile in Sanxingdui site. So this is actually the restoration of Sanxingdui site. So below all of these flowers, and local people, they're actually digging out holes to excavate the bronze wares. We have to protect these areas, that's why we grow all of these plantations. So by looking at these plantations, you can have a guess of the shape of the piles and excavation site. Now I'm standing on the opposite side of the Mamu He River, and this area is higher than the other land. And if you look at the shape, it's in the shape of a moon. That's why people call this place a moon-shaped bay. So most of the jade and potteries were discovered in this place. Actually, the Sanxingdui is actually very close to the Moon Bay. So this is how this name comes from. "34 years ago, if we look back to the history, we're hearing the echoes from the Sanxingdui site, which is quite impressive. We have the glorious ancient Shu culture, also represents the wisdom of the ancient people, and there are many mysteries and secrets sealed in the Sanxingdui site. 34 years ago, we once again started the excavation work of Sanxingdui, and Yang Shiping and the CCTV will continue to follow up with the progress of the excavation. We are trying to unveil the mystery of Sanxingdui site. Right, it feels like when we are looking at the video, we are not sure whether we are doing a new media live coverage or the television coverage. So I think the shape of the three-star piles, the Sanxingdui, is just as good as Wang Bingbing, one of our celebrity hosts in CCTV. So we must have a lot of questions about the Sanxingdui. We're also curious about the excavation work conducted in Sanxingdui site. So I would like to ask a few questions to the archaeologist. Can you tell us more about the mystery of the Sanxingdui site? Well, what I know is it located in Sichuan province. It locates in the Guanghan city of Sichuan province. So also we hear the name, the Dark River. Well, it's quite a long river. So maybe we can review the video to have a better understanding. So after I look at the video, I understand that Sanxingdui just locates opposite to the Moon Bay. So it feels like we are talking about the same thing. It's about the location of Sanxingdui site. According to the archaeology, when we are referring to the location of the site, we are referring to the specific regions in a certain province. So for Sanxingdui site, it is located in the Guanghan County of Sichuan province. And also there is a Nanxing Township, which is also counts under the Guanghan County. So we would say Sanxingdui is actually located in the Sanxingdui village in the Nanxing Town, Guanghan County of Sichuan province. So this is the exact location of the Sanxingdui relics. And also some people are talking about Sanxingdui and relate it to the Chengdu, because some people may think this place is related to a plateau in Chengdu, but that is not quite precise. But we would say Sanxingdui site is very close to Chengdu city, but in the past few decades, there are a lot of changes in the geographical sites. So some of the places have been demolished, and some places have been included into Deyang city of Sichuan province, and also Guanghan is included into Deyang. And some people are thinking maybe they want Sanxingdui site to be included into Chengdu instead of Deyang. So all of these are my speculation. This means all people love Sanxingdui site. Just like we all love pandas. And when we're talking about pandas, we will think of Chengdu. So actually, that is not the birthplace for panda. But still, we like to associate Panda with Chengdu. I personally visited Chengdu, and also I really think that actually Chengdu is the birthplace of Panda. So at the beginning of the reform and opening up period of China, we do not have a lot of exchanges of the outside world. So when representatives from Chengdu talk with foreigners, they will say, actually, we are the birthplace of Panda. And for some of those foreigners, they're quite impressive because they think Chengdu is just a small village, a small city. They cannot relate Panda to Chengdu. So if we look at the location of Sanxingdui, it located in the Chengdu plateau. However, if we look at the administrative allocation of the regions, it actually belongs to Deyang, Nanxing County. So that is the location of Sanxingdui. So any questions about Sanxingdui site? So we just talked about, we have like 3 earth mounds. Are these 3 earth mounds exactly the same? So if we look at the history, look at the height, it's somewhat similar. But actually, this earth mound was formulated at a later stage. At the earlier stage, these 3 mounds used to be city walls. And for the excavation work going on, and people collecting earth from that places, and then we formulate these earth mounds. So later on, we are not sure how these earth mounds are referring to. Back in the ancient times, we need to have some boundaries, and also we are looking closer on the earth mounds in Sanxingdui. And when we look at the landscape of Guanghan, we are seeing the shape of the moon. And actually, Sanxingdui used to be a scenic spot in Guanghan. Some people are thinking that for Sanxingdui, it must have 3 earth mounds, and the 3 earth mounds represent this place. And some people are also relating the Sanxingdui to some of the space scenarios. But actually, these 3 earth mounds are related to the city walls of the local region. And today we have so many guests joining us, and also they have many fans. They're leaving a message to these people. So Zhang Yichen, do you have any questions about Sanxingdui? Just bring it on. Well, as for Sanxingdui, I just need to have a systemic understanding about Sanxingdui. We all understand we have the first round of excavation, and then the excavation work keep going. So for the audience, they're just paying attention to the treasures. And for some of the sacrificial pits, maybe we can dig out some of the tools, some of the walls, and all of those things are very important to us. And I believe after 1986, we have dig out like 4 walls from the sacrificial pits in Sanxingdui, and also we are trying to compare the walls with our historic record to better understand the Sanxingdui sites. So maybe we should not just pay attention to those glamorous bronzewares, we should pay attention to other stuff. So if you are a professional in the archaeology, you have to pay equal emphasis to the relics as well as the bronzewares that we have been digging out from the Sanxingdui. So as a drawer, I have a question. So why these relics have been buried in the Sanxingdui site? Because I think for most of the relics, they should be buried with the tomb. So as a ordinary citizen, when we are visiting Sanxingdui, so I want to know which areas should I pay attention to. So how can I better introduce Sanxingdui to other people? So I still remember the history back in 1926. I believe one farmer, when he is trying to dig a ditch and he found 300 jadeware accidentally, which impressed the world. At that time, there may be some small scale of excavation. And after the founding of People's Republic of China, and we continue to move along with the excavation work. And in 1986, we have conducted the first round of the excavation, and we found the sacrificial pit number 1 and number 2. And we were trying to continue our work. We also found a great number of bronzewares. For example, the bronze figures, the bronze trees, and also the elephant tusk, as well as some of the golden crosier. And we are quite shocking by all of those discoveries. That's why people always saying, after sleeping for thousands of years, it woke up to impress the world. And this actually unveiled the mystery of the Sanxingdui civilization. Just look at this. It's quite unique because for this piece you could see this figure has a protruding eyes. So if we look at some of the historical records, it actually talks about the ancient king of Shu Kingdom. So maybe it describes some of the facial expressions and the facial features of the ancient king. We have so many bronzewares to look into, and maybe there are a lot of stories behind all of those relics. For the visitors, they're paying attention to the bronzeware that has been come out from the 2 sacrificial pits. However, for the overall size of the Sanxingdui site, it covers around 12 square kilometers. So far, our excavation only cover 20,000 square meters, just a small portion of the size of the Sanxingdui relic site. So actually, for this excavation work, we only touch a small portion of Sanxingdui site. So as we talk about these 12 square kilometers, we have spent over tens of years to discover the mystery, and also we spend efforts of over generations.
So that is the result of several generations of archaeologists. They take on the baton one by one to investigate and discover. For the 12 square kilometers, we have some known walls in 4 directions. The 4 walls encircle the whole city. In addition, there are inner cities inside. And inside the inner cities, there might be big architecture like palaces with an area of several thousand square meters. And also, outside the west wall, we have a cemetery. In 1997 and 1998, we already found a cemetery. So the total area is less than 20,000 square meters. What we need is those large cemeteries, for example, the Lord-level cemeteries. But now we haven't found one of that level and size. After all, it's about 20,000 square meters that we discovered. It's just a small portion of the total. And some of the cemeteries might be buried inside the inner city. Some are outside the walls. For example, the king cemetery might be in the distance from the city or in the center of the city. So we are in search of those large cemeteries. And there should be a lot of bronze wares. So we must find the workshops for bronze wares. And for the jade wares, what about the workshops of jade wares? The pottery workshops. Just now, she has mentioned about Yazitong. She also mentioned about the Yazi River, the Duck River. In 2007, together with Peking University, we worked together. We were stationed over there, excavating a lot of relics. So we must look far. We shouldn't be fixated on just the Sanxingdui itself. It's, after all, the site of an ancient kingdom. It's very big. There must be a lot of surrounding areas for discovery, like the roads, the villages, the checkpoints. So we can offer a lot of information from those surroundings. And in face of the relics of Sanxingdui, our imagination might be limited. We might be thinking, why does it look like this? In Jizi pile, we couldn't find any character from the already excavated relics. In 2001, we have found another site from Chengdu. It seems that those two were related. And in the Chengdu plain, those group of people took a large portion of land, but where did they go later on? And what about the culture of the locals in those times? Some people might believe that it's even correlated with Maya culture, civilization. I'm not sure about that correlation. So such correlation might exist, but we don't know about the extent of correlation. So what's your idea as the protector of the relics? I keep saying that archaeologist is really a very romantic post. The children might rebate me, asking, what about the Romans in archaeologists? I say that we must keep our expectation. We have just excavated 20,000 square meters, and for the remaining land areas, they are where our expectation lies. I've never expected that in those unexcavated pieces of land, we could discover very big stone plate. It says 未王场所怒，长溪大堆. It's right under your feet. You might be at one moment wondering about what's underneath the earth, but for another moment, one such stone tablet was discovered. Can I go over there? Of course no, but we have prepared a simulated one for you to experience today. When you were talking, I was astonished. I keep looking at Shu. So what's your questions about Sanxingdui? Since I am a commentator, I'm really curious about the historical record of Sanxingdui, because it's the concern of the whole world. Why is it such a sought-after topic, and what's the focal points about Sanxingdui relics and the records it broke? For example, the bronze trees, and not just one. Some are big, some are small. The biggest one is 3 meters high. The exact number is 3.95. The weight is 790 kilos, and it's almost the equivalent of He Mu Wu. It's about 780 kilo. And that's not the total weight. If the relic is complete and intact, you can never imagine the weight and also the shape of it. I think for Hemuwu, it's quite thick, but for the Shu discovered in Sanxingdui in the shape of the tree, it's very beautiful. So the artistic value is much bigger. The former one is a reflection of ritual and courtesy, but this tree is about the Shu Kingdom's culture 3,000 years ago. The ancient Chinese tried to embody their understanding about the cosmos in it. They have their own understanding about the heaven and the earth and the people. We are brainstorming today. We want to know what distinguishes Sanxingdui. As you can see, in addition to this showroom, there are several other showrooms. We have started this live show right before our show, and you can see that inside that window, we can see the Daliren they have been talking about. And this one is the bronze tree. And we also have some other information about Sanxingdui in this video. And also we have a lot of short clips to be played in this channel. Please stay tuned with us. And also for your information, through CGTN, this live broadcasting is shared with audience from around the world to understand Sanxingdui culture. And our audience already leave their questions with us. When was Sanxingdui discovered? They're asking when we're introducing. So, if you have any questions about Sanxingdui, please don't hesitate to leave your questions, and we will refer the questions to our experts. So to put it simply, you might have noticed that I've prepared a lot of those emblems, and several young experts today will participate in the games we design. If they pass the test, they will get one. And if they can collect all of those medals, they can get the big bonus. What is the big bonus? You will see. For example, you might be able to place this stamp right next to the simulated remains of the ancient people. You might want to ask, why is when Madame Wen play as a role of the princess of Sanxingdui? We of course have our designs. Esther Zhang Yicheng, could you repeat what you're doing? I am an archaeological technician. Do you know if you're sent to the site of archaeology as an archaeology technician? What's your job? To do a lot of physical work, like excavating, unearthing. Are you sure? No technical skills required. You're a technician. Of course, there will be some techniques required, but basically, I would do a lot of physical work. It's much better. So stop complaining. Your role is very important. Please allow me to introduce more. In an excavation site, we have different categories of posts. For the excavation staff, we will hire those from the surrounding villages. Now, many young people migrated to the urban areas, so we have to hire a lot of elderly people from the villages. So they will be in charge of unearthing. But for a technician, you don't have to do that job. But of course, when we are needed, even the archaeologists will jump in to excavate themselves. But what about the technician? If you can have additional skills, for example, taking photos or drawing pictures, you can be of help. But most importantly, you have to tell the differences of the different layers of the earth or the colors of the earth. And you have to know the difference about the different relics, and you are able to draw them on pieces of paper. So it's not a simple job. And sometimes the technician may have a wiser judgment than the archaeologists. Usually, you have been working for longer hours on the front line, so you're more experienced in making judgment about those relics. And then you can share your experience with the archaeologists. Sometimes for an important phenomena, even the experts cannot make a comment. So you will be the first person to ask for when the captain comes to the site. But of course, there are different types of technicians. But I recommend you to do more than just excavation. So maybe he can be promoted to be the captain one day. For the ancient creature excavation, a very famous expert called Jia Lianpo in Beijing archaeology field, Mr. Jia is very famous, but don't forget that in his team, the responsible person, for example, Mr. Gao's responsible person, Pei Wenzhong, is now an academic leader. And in Pei's team, Jia was a technician. Mr. Jia served Pei's team as a technician. For example, maybe there are 30 different evidences about the Beijing history, and Mr. Jia worked there as the technician, and his judgment is urgently needed. And this role is really indispensable for all of the team members. So don't lose face. When you're in your 70s or 80s, we can call you the expert Mr. Zhang. Of course, you have to pay more efforts. We have some rigid demand for captains. You must have a degree above the college, the bachelor's degree, and also you must have a professional title in the intermediate level.
And also you need to spend a lot of time to learn about the archaeology, and also you need to write up the essays and articles. So it takes a lot of effort, and also you have to practice. So probably it takes a long time for you to become the captain of the archaeological team. So if you just graduated from the university, at least it takes you around like 7 to 8 years to become the captain. So it's much better than 20 or 30 years. But still, we think we have very few people who are working in this area. We have limited talents, and we have some people who have been retired and going back to the archaeology work. So most of the archaeologists at the front line, they're very young, just at your age. And for some young people, maybe they want to find another job, for example, become a pilot, they become a web celebrity because they can earn more. But I would say we have much more pilots compared to the archaeologists. For example, for the Southern Airline, it have at least 800 planes, and each one of the planes have hundreds of crews. So, but for the archaeology team, we have very limited number of people. So we have to consider the importance of the archaeology work. And it feels like we have a lot of conversation about our daily life. I have a question. I just found a very serious problem. For each one of them, they have a profession in the archaeology team. But for me, I have no title in the archaeology team. So even though I have a name like the princess of the archaeological team, but I don't know what I can do to provide support. But I think for the leaders and the archaeologists, they do not welcome you to come to the archaeology site because if you are visiting there, so those people do not want to work. And for the archaeologists, they need to work very hard, and we also have some female archaeologists. But if you are visiting there, and as we all say, you're like the princess of the archaeology, so all of those people will be very impressed by your arrival. So maybe we will accept you as a worker, help us to carry the earth. And for some people, they are working on the archaeology sites, as all of those historic sites are very distant from their house. So probably we have to set up a stove to prepare food for the archaeologists. But of course, we need to understand how many people are working on the archaeology sites. And also, these people have to change their workplace from time to time. And sometimes you are doing the work at this village, and after a few days, you are going back home. But for some of the places, they're quite remote, so you have to stay there for a really long time. You're not able to go back home. And for some of the archaeologists, they just stay in the house of the villages. And we will also hire some of the farmers to cook for our team. And so for some of the excavation sites, sometimes it's even difficult for us to find out the exact place for excavation. Sometimes if we have a very strong wind, we are not able to find the mountains and also the sand mounds, and it's difficult to find out the excavation. So food is a problem, and they just have to bring some instant food. And sometimes it is difficult for them to find a clean drinking water. And sometimes maybe we are able to hire a chef, and they are able to work there for 1 year, but sometimes there's no signal for them to communicate with the outside. So for the archaeology team, well, we are working together with the China Mobile, and we hope they can provide with us some of the network. So I believe many people, they are interested about the condition of the Sanxingdui site. So actually, in our CCTV app, we are able to see the environment for the Sanxingdui excavation site. For the excavation site of Sanxingdui, actually, the geographic condition is quite favorable because it is located in the plain. After we found the 2 sacrificial pits in 1986, we are actually using some of the houses, the brick house, the brick workshop. So those workshops are served as the workstation for the archaeology for Sanxingdui site. And also we have some other excavation sites in Shanxi and Guangdong, and some of those places have very good condition as well. But I would say in the past few years, we have gradually developed the Sanxingdui culture site, the workstation of the excavation. So this is the place they work. It is not a museum. So this place, they do not need to receive the visitors, but still it will open to the public. For example, if there is a special day, a heritage day, or from time to time there may be some group visit to the workshop of the Sanxingdui excavation site. So because we receive the tax from the general public, so we have to open the workshop for tourists. So some of the viewers, they are quite curious about the condition of the Sanxingdui site and also their excavation workstation. So we welcome all of these general public to pay a personal visit to the workstation of the Sanxingdui excavation site. And actually, we have some gifts prepared to our audience. For example, this is the eye shade. This is the fridge magnet. And also we have a lot of blind box. You never know what you're gonna get. So later we will display all of these gifts to our audience. So right now, you all know this kind of blind box is very popular in China. So can you tell us more? What is inside of those boxes? Well, this is actually the ultimate present. So when we come to the end of the live streaming, and then you may know what are in those boxes. So I will not tell you what are the gifts inside of those boxes. I believe these are just some of the replicas and some of the models of the unearthed relics. For example, this one, the bronze head with the protruding eyes, or trees, etc. In the past, I still remember my family always bought me a lot of presents, just some of the replicas of some of the relics. But if you look closer of those models, it's very delicate. So it could just use as an exhibit to decorate your house. So if you love this kind of relics and this kind of models, just stay tuned, because today we have the experts joining us in the live streaming, and they will tell us and educate us with some of the knowledge about the Sanxingdui site. And later we will also play a game, and we will try to pick some of the lucky audience. We will send out these presents, gifts to the audience. And in the past decades, we have a rapid development of the archaeology, and also we have a lot of female archaeologists. So actually, if you are coming to the archaeology and the excavation site, it is not a big surprise for other archaeologists. And also we have some senior and experienced female archaeologists. They are also participating in the excavation work in other relic sites in Sichuan province. So right now, we have many female archaeologists. In Shanxi Archaeology Institute, the vice president is also a woman. And for the Xinjiang Archaeology Research Institute, the president is also a woman. And also in Qingdao Archaeology Research Institute and the Guizhou Archaeology Research Institute and the director of Guangdong Archaeology Research Institute and the Beijing Archaeology Research Institute. All of these people are women, and they are also very experienced in the archaeology work. And also, one of the members used to be a CCTV reporter, and that person changed her occupation after taking a degree in Peking University, and she became a diving archaeology. So right now we are about to have a game.
这个特别好吃，我刚才吃了好几个。我给高老师拿一个。好期待哦！这特别好吃，麻花我能种。第一个游戏脆的，谁来玩啊？So
basically, it is a puzzle game, and we will divide it into different groups to collect different pieces of the puzzle and try to make a complete picture.
我们两个来玩吗？对，留给年轻人的事情。对。你们都不，就咱俩呀？就把我俩留着，就我俩来玩。来啊！
So first, I will talk about the rules. So in this area is actually a simulated excavation site. If you have a visit to the museums, and some of the museums, they will have a restoration of the excavation site. And we have to protect those relic sites. And especially we have to protect the remains of those excavation sites. So here we're actually standing at the simulating excavation site. Maybe Mr. Gao, you can give us some introduction about the simulating site. So I think this is just a demonstration. If we look at the demonstration, well, it is good enough. But it is not good enough if we look at it from a professional aspect. Well, I don't watch television so much, but I think that maybe this is the first simulated excavation site we have right now. All right, I would say, well, this is the first simulated grand excavation site on CCTV. So please stay tuned and join us for our simulated excavation work. So I will join this puzzle game, but I don't know what to do. So actually the rules are very simple. So first we will tie up their legs, and then they have to complete a very important task inside of this pit. First, they have to dig the earth, and also to transport these earth, we will also give tools to these two people, and they have to dig out some of the earth, and we will give you a 4 minutes limit, and you just try your best to find out the pieces of the puzzle.
It sounds very hard. Could you lower the difficulty level? And also you have a puzzle. We cannot seem to knot it. Our thighs too thick? Let me pass it to you. Where did you find the shovel? It's really heavy. It's like a weapon. It seems like an iron shovel. Yes, it's heavy. Please allow me to turn a little bit. Thank you. So try to control your steps. We can see whether you abide by the rules of the game. Are you ready? So now we have to shovel the earth and fill it in the cup. And then you can play the puzzle of the bronze. And within 4 minutes' time, you must carry the pieces and make this puzzle complete. It seems quite easy, but the really difficult part is whether you will fall. Count down 3, 2, 1. Where shall we go? Which direction? I will hold you and I will follow your guide. And how about we have a slogan 1, 2, 1, 1 for left foot and right for the right foot. 1, 2, 1. 1, 2. We are here. Now let's put the earth in the cup. A lot of the earth is spilled. Take a turn. The cup is not full. It's not full yet. You use your hands. Never mind us. And let's call our steps. Now we are back. And this way. The shovel isn't working. We receive comments saying that Mr. Zhang is causing trouble to Madame Wen. I guess your fans don't have faith in you. Zhang has long legs, so they're not working very smoothly together. It's full. That's wrong. You can hold his waist in order to walk more harmoniously. Take this piece, 3 pieces already. They seem to be faster when returning, because they're not holding the earth when they come back. Your shovel seems bigger. Your shovel is enough for this cup. If you can fulfill 2 cups in one journey, then you don't have to come back again. We get all the pieces, and we cheated a little bit. It takes 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Now you do the puzzle. Pick it up. Can we split our legs and unknot the rope? Not really. You have 30 seconds left. You're doing it wrong.
放脑门上了。哎，
一共
哎
刚
厉害，厉害。哎哎
哎呀，
哎，
搁现在我估计小
You can't even pass the primary school examination. It's done.
好，
好完成。
Congratulations.
好的。
但是他们俩几乎没有任何默契的配合。
The two don't seem like to have partnership, but they still do the work. Bonus?
高老师他们
Mr. Gao,
啊，
我来
is the puzzle done correctly?
说一下。
I have some comments.
两个精神口家。
You two shall be commended because of your spirit.
刚才我
But
说看你的打扮派头，
as I said, you look like a technician from
也举手
what you wear, but from what you were doing just now, you don't look like a technician anymore.
办这个活动的单位，凭什么拿个洛阳？
Why would the organizer give you a Luoyang shovel to do this job?
很多人认为这个洛阳铲儿啊，是不是传统的铲？
Many people are wondering whether Luoyang shovel is a traditional shovel, but actually this is Luoyang shovel.
哎，这是洛阳铲儿，洛阳铲儿是钻探用的，
It's for drilling,
钻探用的。
哦，
it's not for shoveling and fetching earth.
另外，锄头和方形的铲子，哎，
哦，
那个
It's an iron-like shovel, so you use the wrong tools for the first thing.
我还这是里面不记得中国最大的洛阳铲。
It's like the biggest Luoyang shovel in China. I've never seen such a big one of its kind.
大了一点，还应该小。
It could be even smaller than my shovel.
洛阳铲儿本身
If Luoyang shovel is too heavy, it takes a lot of efforts
我们钻探
for drilling, and since we're not sure what's underneath the earth, if the shovel is too big and heavy,
破坏到我对
the force might be too strong to damage the pottery, possibly
能够达到目的。
buried underneath. So we want to minimize the damage.
说这
这
个
差不多大小就应该是
So it's about 8 inches
粗那么一点儿。
这个洛阳铲儿啊，在民间传得很传
thick for the usual Luoyang shovel.
洛阳的，大概他们说的所谓的
鸭子
盗墓者，哎
That's the so-called 盗墓
是
者.
在上个
In the
世纪
1920s
20年代的时候，有一个洛阳地区的这么一个盗墓者，叫
A person called Li Yazi
这东西下去之后
who steal the relics from the tomb
根据这个土的不同颜色判断，
shared his experience about judging what's inside the tomb by looking at the color of the earth.
就和我们看到平常的这种土颜色是不一样的。哦，
看见了吧？这个这个它这样的，在一个，比方说
That's it.
平面的这个，
If the earth
在历史上
has never been
为干扰的
intervened by any manpower and they piled up
千万年，
naturally after years,
人类扰动，
and
它就堆积
they were usually piled up very naturally.
一般管它叫
But if they're intervened by people, then they will look differently. Usually, we can judge that in the tombs. Of course, they have different shapes. They might be in different shapes.
形状的。那么这种呢，看这个，如果是一般的遗址下边，
If you have a red color earth
比方说
under the
上面的
relics,
木炭痕家这上面有一些。
you will see some
而
traits,
另外呢，拿开以后看这个，
and you fetch the earth.
看吗？这里边如果有
If you see some
陶瓷渣渣，
pieces and slices of the pottery or bronzewares or red earth,
还有一些种子武器啊、漆器啊这个地方
then you will know for sure that this is the site of relics, and Luoyang shovel will come into play.
现场就会看到啊，地上它是有规律的分布着一个一个
So as you can see,
细的小洞。
there are several regular holes in the earth, because beforehand we have to use the shovel to have a scanning and measurement of this piece of land. We know that there must be such a relic site, but what about the exact position, which might be the channel leading towards the tomb, which place is where the palace resides?
每隔一定距离，每隔一定距离。
So we must have a division.
很有经验的探工，
we have very professional experts to tell us the position. They know exactly where is the city gate, the tomb, and how many tombstones does it have. And what about the depth of the tomb? What about the shape of the tomb? They know it already. But you cannot put all your eggs in one basket. That is the Luoyang shovel. The shovel has an accuracy ratio of 80 to 90%, but in the final analysis, we have to resort to archaeological excavation for confirmation. Sometimes the shovel can dig a hole every 1 meter or every 2 meters, so there is the possibility of missing the relics. So finally, we have to do the excavation to discover more exactly. Just now, Mr. Gao mentioned about a tomb in the shape of Jia, the Chinese character, and also in the shape of a Chinese character called Ya. It's Ya, not Ya, meaning the duck. So we were doing it wrong just now. We just use it like a usual shovel, since that's really a test of a technician. So how about Mr. Gao, you show us an example. Firstly, you bump it into the earth and you lift it up. You check the earth, the color, the tightness. And you keep digging. You have to keep digging through the hole. You have to dig very deep into the earth where it's never disturbed by people. But Mr. Gao thinks if you dig deeper, it's a damage to our showroom. So how about Mr. Zhang, you have a try. You have a posture. The shovel must go vertically. Is it too shallow? Yes, for the first digging, it's shallow. And then you lift it up. Now you go. We have to complain about the tools. These two must be self-made. Mr. Gao? The Luoyang shovel is not as we expected. It has an angle here, so it's very sharp in the front. That's why it can take away the earth with it when it's lifted. So that's really a refinery technique. What about Mr. Peng? You learn very quickly. So now let's get back to our position.
So with the modern technology, actually, Luoyang shovel is one of our tools for the excavation work. And also right now we are using the technology of remote sensing for the excavation. If we have the remote sensing and the mapping technology, we are able to find out where is the passage of the tomb, and maybe there may be some skewed paths of the passage, and then we may adjust our work. So that's the same thing we can do to conduct the excavation for the Sanxingdui site. So we can use the modern technology for the excavation, so we don't need to use that kind of ancient tools for our work. Except for Luoyang shovel, we could use other modern technologies for the excavation. Right now, we are also using the UAV to detect the relic sites. But still, right now we are using the Luoyang shovel. according to the regulation, they're saying some of the technology are not suitable for the excavation because all of those technology are still in the trial phases. So just a few minutes ago, I'm talking about the modern technology, and then Mr. Gao just said, well, we're still in the trial phase. Because right now, many people are saying, why you're not using the modern technology to do the excavation? Because right now, we're still at the exploration stage. We use some of these technology in the Sanxingdui excavation, and also we're doing some underground excavation. And sometimes, according to the modern technology, it detects something buried underground. And then when we are digging out, we found it's just a coin. So for these technologies, they can detect the metal, but still we are not sure what is the composition of the metal and what is the size of the metal. But of course, there may be some advantages. If you have the UAV, we are able to find out the relics that has been located inside of the forest. So of course, our technology is advancing, but that is not the only way we're depending on for the excavation. We have to keep exploring the new possibilities. Right, so for these two, they have just completed our puzzle game. So I will give her one of the label. So on this blackboard, we have like putting some of the labels of our identities. So for each one of us, we have different identity. So if we are winning the game, then I'm able to have one of these icons. So just now we have complete the puzzle for the bronze figure with the golden mask. All right, it's just a simple game. When we are putting on these puzzle, we are actually talking about one of the treasure. So that is the bronze figure of the golden mask. So as you are the protector of the relics, can you give us some introduction about this relic? If we look at some of these relics, we can look at it from different perspectives. So for this one, it is actually a bronze figure with golden mask. So we always questioning whether the ancient Shu Kingdom produced gold. So what is the composition of the gold? When we are excavating some of these relics, we are able to understand. So back in the ancient Shu Kingdom, these places produce gold. So we rarely see this kind of gold mask in the Central Plain. And in other cemeteries, maybe we see some of the other figures covered with the golden mask. But traditionally, we do not see much of the golden mask for those relics. So in the past, we may see some of the relics, they have been covered with gold, and we also have the golden figure excavated from different sites. So for the Sanxingdui site, when we're excavating these relics, it gives us a lot of imagination. Because back in that time, we are not seeing a lot of the same kinds of design in the Central Plain, but we do see this kind of relics found in Egypt. We found different kinds of golden masks in other countries. But still, I remember, for certain dynasties, we may see some of the gold masks excavated from the relic sites, but that was in a different age as compared to the Sanxingdui civilization. Because we all know the Sanxingdui civilization has not passed down, especially to the later stage of the ancient Shu. It has been included into the Chinese civilization. So we are wondering whether this kind of civilization exists. So even though Sanxingdui site and also this ancient Shu Kingdom was conquered, we can see similar kind of civilizations in Chengdu Plain as compared to the civilization in the Central Plain. You actually reach a very good point. We should not just look at those bronze wares or those cultural relics. After we look at those relics, we have to do a lot of thinkings. Even though we think the figures and the golden mask is quite peculiar, but we should not just look at the shape and also the appearance of those relics. We have to understand the origin, the source of those materials. In the past 2 decades, we have advanced a lot in the archaeological discovery. So we should not just look at the relics itself. We have to understand where these relics comes from and how these relics comes from. So for example, previously we are able to found the greenstone mine that used to exist in the Erlitou culture. And they're also finding some kinds of jade mine that existed 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. And also we are able to found some of the mines in Hunan province. And some of those elements can be used to produce silver and produce gold. So we have to trace the source of all of those relics. And then we can better understand the culture and the civilization back in the ancient times. In the southwestern region, there were so many mountains. It is difficult for us to get access to some of the mining area because we think gold is associated with the mine. So we have to consider how these people make the bronze back in the Sanxingdui times. Some people are saying next to Chengdu, the Nongmenshan mountain, we should conduct another round of excavation work, but it requires a heavy workload. But I believe the archaeologists will continue to do their work and to find more traces for the ancient times. And for the Sanxingdui site, we always have a question. As we all found these sacrificial pits, we are not sure why this kind of sacrificial pits are found. Are they used these sacrificial pits to offer sacrifices to God? Because we can see for some of the bronze figures, it has been cut off by 2 parts, and some of the relics have been burned and smashed and thrown inside of the sacrificial pits. We're not sure whether that is a part of the sacrificial ceremony or all of these sacrifices have been damaged on purpose. So this is actually a question bother us. So also there are some saying that maybe some people, when the ancient Shu people, they're doing the sacrificial work and there is an outside tribe conquering their site and then they damage all of those relics on purpose. So for the archaeologists, so they're not just looking at the burial objects, they have to better understand what are the stories behind all of these relics. For some of these relics, they're actually buried for a long time, and it is common that for some of the relics may have some cracks. So if we look at the pieces of those relics, we have to consider whether this is damaged because of the disasters or damaged by human beings. But if we are able to find out some of the written records, or at least if we can find some of the characters, it will be helpful for us to find out the identity of those people. Otherwise, we're not able to understand the history of the ancient times. So archaeology is a state of art. It is not just you dig up a hole and find out some of the relics. You still need to understand the civilization and culture behind it. Well, in the past we have like 2 sacrificial pits, and soon maybe we will have more relics coming out from other sacrificial pits. And I believe the experts are very cautious about the study about all of those pits and the relics. And in the Central Plains, from time to time, we find out some pits, and we will identify those pits as the sacrificial pits, and maybe we are able to find out some of the information from the historic records. And for example, if we look at the history of the autumn and spring, we may have some written records. But for Sanxingdui sites, we do not see much of the written records. And also there's no written record for the sacrificial events. So we don't know how they deal with those sacrifices. For example, after the sacrificial ceremony, how they deal with those pits, or how they deal with those bronzewares and the sacrifices. So it is a mystery. It's open for discussion. So for us, well, actually we are quite confused. We're not very sure what you're talking about. It's quite technical. Just look at this one. What is that? Have a guess. I think it's a wheel. A steering wheel. For a car or for a vehicle? What is that? Darts? Or the wheel of a car? The wind turbine? We're not sure. What is it? This one seems very modern. So what is that? Maybe it's a prop for dancing?
Is it possibly a shield? For example, the wooden part has been eroded and only the metal ones are left. It seems quite complicated for a shield. It's taken like a solar panel in the museum. Personally, it's just a sun-shaped wheel. It's not a panel, it's a wheel. A wheel in the shape of the sun. Mr. Gao speaks local dialect, so sometimes the pronunciation is not quite the same as the Mandarin. But we cannot prove that this one is the steering wheel, so we only know it's a wheel and it's in the shape of the sun. Even the bronze tree, we're not sure about what it's used for. Is it related with the ancient stories about the sun god? For example, for this sun-shaped wheel, we're wondering whether it's just named because of the shape. And also we have principles where we restore the relics. We firstly need to see if it's intact. If there are something missing, we can restore the left pieces. It's just like when you break your vases at home. You can try to put them back together. And also for all those images of Sanxingdui, they look cute. You must be scared if a person looking like that appears in front of you. It looks like an alien to me. Their ears seem to be pierced. Yes, they wear the earrings. How many? On both ears. From the drawings, we can see that they wear earrings on both ears. But we haven't found the earrings in the pits. Possibly they have the earrings, but since all of those relics have been broken into pieces, the difference of archaeology from digging gold is that in one pit, maybe it hasn't been disturbed before by man. You can draw the pictures about the positions of this wheel and what's the distance of this wheel to the head of the remains. You must have very precise record. And particularly in the years when photographing was not prevalent, they have to write a lot of minutes about their discovery. That's why the professionals in those years must draw very good pictures, right? Yes, I have a question. I find that in many ancient paintings, their eyes are quite narrow and they seem to be lifted up in the edge. It's just like the picture of Confucius. It's like peach blossom eyes. In one era or one dynasty, they have their own unique style of painting. If it's not sketches from reality and it's just artistic creation, then there must be a lot of personal emotions embodied in the paintings. To give you one example, the images in Tang Dynasty are usually more chubby. But of course, it doesn't mean that in reality, those ladies are fat. Another example, in the Red Mansions, Lin Daiyu has very small mouths and very thin waist, but in reality, we cannot see such a person like her. It's just arts. So you cannot equate those images in the paintings with real people. So aesthetics differ in dynasties. In Tang Dynasty, being chubby is prevalent, but it only occurred in the mid and later stages of Tang Dynasty. You cannot generalize. And for the makeups of Tang Dynasty, they look quite dramatic. For example, you have 3 red dots in your face to imitate the tears gushing from the eyes. So it's quite exaggerated. And in Song Dynasty, the aesthetics was more rigid and cautious. So it's more humanity-based. For example, for the clothes, they are quite long so that the ladies wearing them would look fine. They look more slender in those clothes. And you also mentioned about the eyes of Confucius. That's what I'm heading for. For example, in your heart, the image of Confucius must show the teeth. It's quite commonplace to see Confucius opening his mouth. That's a symbol of wisdom. Sometimes when we see a rabbit showing its teeth, we know that it's a wise rabbit. When you're drawing for archaeology, whatever dynasty does it belong to, the images must not interfere with your judgment. We must draw those pictures exactly as they were. In the pits, you have to be 100% accurate. You cannot draw based on your imagination. For example, drawing some wrinkles or grooves in the eyes, or draw more patterns of flowers on the clothes. You must draw exactly like it was. Instead, if you add your ideas into it, is incorrect. According to Mr. Gao, not much addition is allowed. After all the remains are just bones. Now, photographing is quite a cutting-edge technology, so maybe my job is related with hers. The most cutting-edge drawing technique is scanning to imitate the painting. As far as I know, in Beijing and Xi'an, there are such enterprises to offer 3D scanning, and in 10 minutes' time, through their software, with just a click of a button, the outcome is produced. In Wuhan, they can do the section part or the bird view angle of the painting. But still, many people prefer the traditional handmade drawings. Whether it's electronic or handmade, those two experts can fight for themselves on their own behalf. And please allow me to interrupt. Photography and drawing cannot replace each other. It's just like even with photography, paintings are still with us, and films are still with us. Our viewers, please remember the first lottery taking is about to begin. The slogan is, "Where is Sanxingdui?" And please leave your answer in the comment area. And later on, we will get the lucky one. We have another task called return.